Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Hey, folks, today's Thursday, July 3rd, 2025. Coming up on Rolling Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. An epic, historic speech given by House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries as he breaks the record for the longest floor speech in U.S. House history, speaking against Donald Trump's big, ugly, dangerous bill. That did not stop Republicans, though, from passing the bill. We'll show you some of what Jeffries had to say and talk about really what he laid out, I believe, is the campaign focus for Democrats in 2026. Also, on today's show, we'll talk to the attorney representing the family of a 18-year-old black Alabama man gunned down by police. The family's demanding the video be released. Police say, no, it's going to hinder the investigation. Also, a woman wrongfully accused of theft in North Carolina is fighting to reclaim her life. We'll talk with her and her attorney, Harry Daniels. That and more right here as Rolling Martin Unfiltered broadcast live from New Orleans. It is time to bring the funk on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, roll, y'all. It's rolling Martin, yeah. Rolling with rolling now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's rolling Martin now.
Folks, the family of Jabari Smith would be celebrating his 19th birthday today, except he was gunned down by cops in Homewood, Alabama on June 23rd. Police claim that Jabari reached for a gun during a scuffle over marijuana possession, but the family says that simply is not true. A witness says that Jabari was unarmed and shot in the back. Now, for 2 nights, protesters have filled the streets in Homewood, Alabama, calling for justice and the release of the officer's body cam footage. The family's attorney has filed a petition requesting that a judge make the evidence public. But the authorities say releasing that video could hinder their investigation. Joining us now is civil rights attorney Leroy Maxwell Jr., representing the people's family. So, Leroy, we've done these stories 1,000 times before. And when the video exonerates the police, they are real quick to drop the video. But they're saying that it's going to hinder the investigation. I'm confused. How? It either shows us what happened or it doesn't.
I agree with you, Roland, and I appreciate you having us on. You're right. Typically, whenever these things happen, and you know as well as I do, they release the videos right away with a sense of urgency to clear their officers. But in this situation, the family's demanding it, the community's demanding it, everyone's demanding the video because we kind of have an idea what's going to happen. And I think what they're doing right now is preparing for the backlash.
Okay, so I laid out the story here. So what happened? Where did they stop him? Why did they stop him? Just explain to us what actually took place.
Right. So what we know right now is that this young man, Jabari Peoples, 18-year-old, recent graduate from high school, was in a suburban white neighborhood. It's a suburb of Birmingham, Alabama, which is typically a black city, but we have suburbs around there. And so he was in a suburban area, Homewood, probably 80% white population. He was there visiting with his girlfriend who recently graduated from high school, about to start University of Alabama. And they were hanging out at a local spot where most of the teenagers hang out, the Homewood soccer park. They were approached by officers. Officer claimed that he smelled marijuana, had a discussion about marijuana with the girlfriend. Nothing about Jabari and marijuana. But he pulled him out of the car, put him up against the car, and that's when things started getting real funny and murky. At some point, we know there was a tussle. The girlfriend takes off running, and one shot was fired, all right? And so we don't know what happened, but we know a couple things. According to the girlfriend, she had never seen Jabari with a gun. He was never armed. And afterwards, when the officer set her beside his bleeding body, did not see a gun at all. The next thing we know from looking at the body, having our investigators taking hundreds of photos, our own investigation, we know that there was one shot, and that was Jabari being shot in the back in the left lower quadrant. That was the only shot, no exit wound whatsoever. And then the third thing is that we know that there are surveillance cameras and body cam footage on the actual officer. Those are the items that are going missing. So what we have right now is witnesses saying he was unarmed, he was shot in the back, he's dead, he should be alive today. And then the third missing part of it is the actual video of what happened. And that's what the law enforcement's refusing to release at this point. And it doesn't make sense unless they're trying to cover something up.
All right, so when you say the video has gone missing, what does that mean?
Oh, well, not necessarily missing the video. We know where the video is. We know that Homewood City Police have the video. We know Alabama Law Enforcement Agency had the video. They're just refusing to allow us to view it. And so right now there's some bad laws on the books that allow Alabama law enforcement agencies to withhold evidence if they think it's an ongoing investigation. Now, we know, ongoing or not, in these situations, police always release the body cam footage if it's exonerating. If it's dispositive in their favor, they let it out. But we also know when it goes the other way around, they hold on to it. And I think that's what's going on here. We filed in court. We've made our demands. We just filed a pleading yesterday. So we expect to have our day in court and get this information immediately.
And so, first of all, we've done so many of these stories beforehand. When you talk about these laws in these states, they have requirements. In fact, you got Republicans who have been trying to pass other laws in other states that restrict the release of any footage, regardless of the situation. And some even compel a judge to sign an order for the video to be released.
Right, and Alabama is one of those states as well. We recently had some legislation pass, essentially said the family, whenever there's a police-involved shooting, the family has the right to access and to view the body cam footage. However, that access is denied if there's an ongoing investigation It does not allow access to the media. It does not allow for a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, to see the video. It basically puts a ton of restrictions on it, but has a small little caveat that says a family can view a video, but then has a rule of 15, 20 reasons why they cannot. And it's easy for them to enforce that anytime they want. And on top of that, Alabama's one of the states that just passed one of those additional immunity bills that not only give officers qualified immunity, state agent immunity. Now there's an extra level of protection of immunity that they have in these sort of incidents. So in Alabama, we have one of those double whammy states where on the surface, they give you the idea that, hey, family could look at it. But in reality, all the bill does is codify exactly what it is that you cannot do and what it is the officers can use to prevent the family from actually watching the footage.
You said he was a recent high school graduate, and he's in this. He was visiting his girlfriend. Have there been any previous issues with police in Homewood?
Yeah, so Homewood has a long string of incidents. This area, like I said, these suburban areas around there. I think what Black folks got to understand is that even when we are in these situations, when we feel comfortable, we're actually still behind enemy lines. And the reality is they don't want us there, all right? Whether it's me, whether it's you, whether it's our sons, 18-year-old to 65-year-old, they don't want us there. If this was a young white boy and hanging out with his friends in his baseball uniform, they wouldn't have bothered him. But because of who he is and what he looked like, they initiated an engagement with him that was completely unnecessary. And even if his girlfriend did have marijuana on her, that doesn't lead to a death sentence. Jabari was someone's son, someone's brother, friend, bright future, wanted a future in law enforcement himself. He worked security at one of the major hospitals in the state of Alabama. So he had nothing but respect for the law. But no matter how much respect he had for them, it wasn't returned on to him. And we always pray that our sons make it back home. And he was one that didn't make it back home, and it was senseless.
Obviously, because of what you just described, you said this Homewood is a largely white suburb. I have to ask the question: girlfriend, she African American or she white?
She was African American. This was a dynamic.
This wasn't a situation of a white girl and then a white cop, black boy. Wasn't anything like that. That's why I was asking the question.
No, it wasn't that situation. This is a black couple minding their own business out there in a park where teenagers often are. If you go to the park right now, it's littered with teenagers hanging out as teenagers do. School's out, or if it's a Friday night or school's out, they hang out in parking lots, not doing anything wrong. If officers wanted to arrest every single kid or bother every single kid that hung out in the parking lot, enjoying their time, enjoying their summer, the prisons would be full of folks. But they don't do that because it doesn't make sense. This was a black couple enjoying themselves. But even when we try to, enjoy ourselves or be to ourselves, they won't let us be.
Whole lot to unpack here. Black Lives Matter grassroots, they've been protesting. They reached out to me to talk about their involvement as well. So you really have a lot of intensity going here from people demanding justice.
Oh, yeah. We have a lot of movement here. We're blessed to have the support of Black Lives Matter, other organizations who have stepped up and stepped in for the family. And really, we're doing everything we can. And I appreciate all the protesters, all the activists who are involved with this, because all too often it's just the families and the lawyers trying to fight this thing out. But we're in a really good situation right now with a lot of support, and we're moving boots on the ground, trying to make something happen.
All right, then. We surely appreciate you joining us. Keep us updated what happens next in this case.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us. I appreciate you.
All right, folks, got to go to break. We come back, introduce my panel. We'll talk about other news of the day, including the catastrophic bill that was passed in Congress today by the United States House after a marathon speech by House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries. That and more next on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
This week on the other side of change.
Mass incarceration. Trump administration is doubling down on criminalization and how it is profitable.
And there's something really, really perverse about saying that we need to put people in cages in order for other people to have jobs. Like, that is not how our economy should be built.
Only on the other side of change on the Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, less than 5% of the top executive positions in corporate America are held by women of color. We know it's not because of talent. A recent study says that it's microaggressions, unconscious bias, and limited opportunities being offered to women of color. On our next show, we're going to get incredible advice from Francine Parham, who's recently written a book sharing exactly what you need to do to make it up into the management ranks and get the earnings that you deserve.
I made a point to sit down and I made a point to talk to people. And I made a point to be very purposeful and thought-provoking when I spoke to them.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie of A Balanced Life. Think about the men in your life and ask yourself these questions. Who are their male role models? Who can they turn to for advice to learn about what manhood is all about? On our next show, we talk about why male mentoring is so important to men of all ages. Actor Dondre Whitfield leads an all-star cast and panel to answer these and many other probing questions.
A woman can't teach you how to be something that she's not.
That's on the next A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie on Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. A very different take on Juneteenth with the one and only Dr. Sunyata Ahmed. We'll explore the amazing foods, remedies, and rituals that are a part of our history and the Juneteenth holiday.
So it's our responsibility to return the healthier version to our folks instead of just the red liqueurs marketed to us, the red sodas and the other things. I mean, why does the Kool-Aid man have to sound like Louis Armstrong? He's like, oh yeah!
Oh, yeah, right. An enlightening and tasty hour of the Black Table, only on the Black Star Network.
What's good, y'all? This is Doug E. Fresh, and you're watching my brother Roland Martin Unfiltered as we go a little something like this. Hit it. It's real.
All right, folks, it's Donald Trump cooking the books. The June jobs report is out, and it's weird. The U.S. economy, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, added 147,000 jobs last month, beating expectations. Unemployment rate dipped to 4.1%, the lowest since February. Most of the gains came from, guess what, government hiring, state and local, especially in education. The private sector added just 74,000 jobs, its weakest showing in months. And the federal government actually lost 7,000 jobs, continuing a year of deep cuts. Now, we're going to go beneath the numbers. Joining us right now to break it all down, Morgan Harper, Director of Policy and Advocacy at the American Economic Liberties Project. Okay, so Morgan, now I'm confused because we had the, what is it? Is it ADP? Their numbers before a day before saying loss of 33,000 jobs. Now this, and I've seen people posting on social media. I even saw an item where Bloomberg called out these numbers as being fudged. Can you explain us what the hell's going on?
Well, I don't know if I even have full information on that. I mean, I have not seen that Bloomberg story. We don't, of course, know fully what's happening within the Trump administration. But I do think that it's possible that there's some discrepancies, and this does happen in other months too, some discrepancy between what the ADP figures are predicting and that we ultimately end up seeing from the government data. So, you know, hard to say for sure, but I think even if we are taking these numbers at face value, and like you said, Roland, they are showing some increase in job creation numbers, if we look below the hood, there's plenty to be concerned about and could be signs of future trouble.
So explain.
Okay, so for example, a few things to note, because like I said, there's a lot. One, people who are unemployed are staying unemployed longer. That's disconcerting because now it's like you're trying to find a job, but you're not able to get one. Problematic. Two, the manufacturing jobs continue to go down. So you noted that a lot of the job growth is in public sector, local, state government, education, even healthcare. You know, that's not usually private sector either. There's a lot of nonprofit hospitals, for example, things like that. We're not seeing the gains in the private sector. That's the whole theory of the case for them, is they're bringing back manufacturing and rebuilding America and all of this. Well, this is the second month in a row where we've seen multi-thousands of manufacturing job losses. And, you know, we noted, you know, it's not across a lot of different industries. The average number of hours that people are working is also going down. And of course, it's possible people are voluntarily trying to work less, or summertime, you know, maybe things with kids and who knows, but it could be a sign, and I think a lot of people are wondering if it is a sign that people, again, are not able to work as much as they want. So they are still employed, but they're just not able to get as many hours in, you know, schedule as many shifts as they would like. And importantly, Black unemployment is rising. So even though overall unemployment is still staying pretty steady, in these numbers, from this past month, Black unemployment going up. And, you know, and those fluctuate a lot. We've talked about that. So we'll just have to see how it all gets adjusted. But that is, you know, the other take on some of these job numbers beyond the headline. The other thing I would note is there's a whole category of knockoff effects that are happening throughout, you know, because of other policy decisions or other indicators that might not be directly connected to this jobs data that comes out every month, but are also signs of trouble. And that would include things like layoffs. You know, Microsoft, for example, just announced that they're going to have I think this is their third round of layoffs over the last few months. This latest round, 9,000 people that are going to be laid off in Microsoft. A lot of the tech companies have done layoffs, and we're starting to see, you know, more of this, not just in tech, but also in other industries as well. That, I mean, we don't need to explain that. Layoffs are not good and mean less money in people's pockets. And based on some of those other factors we were just discussing, it might be harder for people to bounce back if there isn't as much private sector hiring going on. And actually, I think the job cuts we're seeing, it's among the highest levels of layoffs, job cuts we've seen since the pandemic. But as we know, the pandemic was a very unique time. So to be getting anywhere close to starting to match what was going on during the pandemic could be just the beginning, the brewing of an economic crisis.
And of course, we see tariffs. You have the chair of the Federal Reserve, Chairman Powell, who has said that they would have cut rates by now if Donald Trump's tariffs were not going to go into effect. And again, you got Republicans who are sitting here just crowing and how great and wonderful these things are. We saw what happened today with this bill that was passed that's going to be signed into law tomorrow. And we've already had one hospital in Nebraska announce they're going to shut down because of what's happening with Medicaid. And so while they are cheering and proclaiming things are wonderful, we are about to have a serious economic problem.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, the tariffs we talked about, that still just continues to be a huge source of uncertainty. And look, I mean, that connects to why we're not seeing more job growth in private sector. A lot of private sector companies are just saying, we can't move in this environment. We don't know where things are headed. Even if they don't keep all of the tariffs, the increase in certain level of tariffs is going to impact their ability to, you know, maybe replace some of their supply, given that we're not seeing the administration pair these tariffs with domestic investment and diversify the types of suppliers that are available. And you're absolutely right, Roland. I mean, the big bill, I'm not going to use the term beautiful because, I mean, it's actually offensive to even apply that word to what's going on here. These are really aggressive cuts that are going to hit at the heart of not just people's economic lives, but actually their whole existence and as human beings. With some of the cuts that are happening to healthcare, and that's going to have a big impact too. Premiums likely to go up. We could see further consolidation in the insurance industry. That is never a good thing for bottom line, access to health care and also controlling costs. And then the immigration, what are they choosing to fund? Choosing to fund ICE to the tune of $46 billion. Well, again, you can take the humanity point at it, and a lot of they said that they're going after people who are criminals, but I think we all have seen now that it's gone way beyond that, including picking up some people who are American citizens and their raids and all of that. Real chilling effect on workers, and then, getting into the economic impact, workers wanting to even show up. A lot of towns at this point, here in Ohio where I am, across the country, the immigrant population is the engine of the economy. And so if we have people, even if they're still here, they're scared to even leave their homes because of some of this ICE funding, well, we're not going to see the amount of labor that's needed to keep up some of our food supply and all of these things. And that could have detrimental effects as well and increase a lot of the costs that we face as consumers down the line. Will all of this happen right away? The impacts? No. But again, it does continue to feel like we just have this ticking time bomb, and that it's not if we will have some kind of economic downturn, it's when.
I want to bring in my panel while we're having this economic discussion. Let me bring them in right now. Dr. Nola Haynes, Georgetown University School of Foreign Service, joining us from D.C. Dr. Greg Carr, Department of Afro-American Studies, Howard University out of D.C. Eugene Craig, CEO, X Factor Media, Inc., out of Baltimore. The thing here, and I want to start. I want to start with you, Eugene. We saw what happened today. The passing of this bill. Only 2 Republicans voted no. 10 Republicans voted no. They held the vote open for a very long time in order to procure those 2 votes. They wanted this bill to be voted upon in the dead of the night, but Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries said, nah, that ain't going to happen. Y'all going to have to sit here and listen to all of this. I'm going to play some of that later in the show. And again, they're jumping up and down saying how this is just going to create this new golden era of economics in the United States. But they are actually putting this economy in peril with their actions.
Yeah, so I'll say this, right? I don't know if you're coming to me. I had a disconnection for a second.
Yes, you.
The thing is this, Roland. They're putting the economy in peril. The Fed chair has already said that we would have lowered interest rates if not for tariffs, right? And the one thing that's definitely going to come out of this is an increase in tariff, is an increase in interest rates. Because, hey, we're going to run deficits, we're going to run debt up, and the debt's going to be monetized. Part of the issue that Republicans take advantage of every single time they get power is that the American public doesn't understand the relationship between government spending, taxes, and how that affects their everyday lives when it comes to things like, hey, your interest rate that you're going to pay for your mortgage, or interest rate that for your credit card, or interest rate that you're going to pay on your car payment, or the lack of interest rate that you're going to get on your savings, right? And how inflation itself is an invisible interest rate that you may not see on paper, but you feel every single day. And so the austerity that was just passed today is going to head to the president's desk is going to do nothing but hurt the American people. Shout out to Congressman Massey and Congressman Fitzpatrick. It must be noted, Brian comes from a pure purple district and voted, his conscience to protect his constituents. Talking about Brian Fitzpatrick. Also of note, that's where we held our second and final Republicans for Harris rally in his district. So he comes from a district that Vice President Harris won. But the rest of the Republican caucus, shame on them. The members from North Carolina and Georgia and Alabama, there isn't a Republican member whose constituents is not going to be directly affected by this. But, in their eyes, because, hey, a lot of these cuts don't take place in 2026, they think it's all, fun and dandy, and then that they can blame the Democrats when they come into effect. But at the end of the day, they voted to harm the people that put them in power and office.
The thing here, as we look at what has happened, and Nola, as I said, this hospital in Nebraska, rural area in the district of Nebraska, Congressman Don Bacon, who announced that he was not going to be seeking re-election. So he didn't owe Donald Trump anything. So what did he do? He voted for the bill. Already, this hospital leader saying, sorry, Medicaid cuts, there's no way we survive. Those people now are not going to be able to have health care there. This is the reality, what we're dealing with. That is going to be detrimental to the economy.
Absolutely. And we've seen this pattern before. I remember being home in New Orleans for the Mardi Gras when COVID was happening, but the first Trump administration decided to tell Louisiana, to tell New Orleans that it was safe for Mardi Gras to go ahead. And a month and a half later, 14 members of my family died. So we have a pattern where Trump thinks that if you pretend that the thing isn't happening, or if you shove it in a box long enough, you can somehow be delusional enough and convince other people to be delusional as if the thing isn't happening. With the jobs report, I'm going to listen, something is very fishy here. As an academic, I can tell you across the board, there are hiring freezes. I cannot tell you how many emails Georgetown have sent talking about we don't know what's going to happen. I have friends across the country from UCLA, USC, Harvard, you name it. There are hiring freezes and there's a lot of uncertainty and people are losing their jobs or hours are being cut back. And I can tell you, as someone who just recently separated from Department of State, where over 3,000 people are on a chopping block for losing their jobs across the federal government, people have lost their jobs. So something isn't adding up here. Now, one thing that I did hear about the jobs report is part of that number are them bringing people back on that Doge fired. I don't know if that's true or not, but there's so many stories going on about the jobs report, but I'm telling you from my own experience, and this isn't, and I have the data sitting in my emails, something isn't adding up. People have lost their jobs, will continue to lose their jobs, but somehow we're adding jobs to education and to the federal government. Something is fishy.
To that particular point, Morgan, look, we know I put nothing past this administration. Now, normally what happens when job numbers are revised up or down, that's based upon when new data comes in. And we've seen that happen before. And so earlier when you said we've seen it before where there's a discrepancy between ADP and the Bureau of Labor Statistics numbers. How does that happen? Why does that happen? Just give us that understanding.
Yeah, and I might need to get even more information on that, but I agree with the main point that we don't know what we don't know, and when we look at what Congress could be doing, I do think that this is something worth inquiry. In addition to trying to speak out about the bill, it's like this is the time to be demanding specific investigations. That is another tool that Congress has to be able to have them show their work, right? But based on, and again, I want to see some of the sources that you're referencing, Roland, but based on what we know on the data that's available, I don't know that there's evidence of cooking the books, but I completely agree with all the trends that we're seeing. There have been a lot of job losses. And if there's something going on with what data is actually being released to the public and it's not in its accuracy, then we need to be ringing the alarm on that really quickly. But at the end of the day, here's another thing that we should probably all be focused on doing is showing the impacts already that are being felt. And I think we're seeing this. Food banks are already having a hard time keeping up with demand, and they know that they're not going to be able to continue to get the same level of resources that they've received before. Roland, you were referencing, the rural hospital that's announced that they're going to close. There are a lot of institutions across the country that rely almost exclusively, if not majority, on Medicaid patients, and knowing that those resources aren't going to be available. So uplifting those stories, telling what the impacts are, and how it doesn't necessarily jive with the official picture that's being presented by the government data, again, whether true or completely accurate or not, I think is going to be very, very important as quickly as we can.
Greg, what was really interesting here, when you talk about this particular bill, Republicans put a lot of this stuff to hit in 2027 after the 2026 midterms. To Morgan's point right here, but we know there are immediate things going. for everybody who's been saying, well, the Democrats, they're flailing, they have no message, the reality is they do now have one. They now have something where they can say what we are for and what the people are against based upon what they've already done. And we heard that in Leader Jeffries' speech. And I'm going to unpack that a little bit further when we actually run that. But people have to understand, Trump has already said, hey, I've got more power. He controls Republicans with an iron fist. But this is a moment where Democrats are going to have to be nailing every day who this hurts, who gets impacted, and every time a hospital or a nursing home shuts down, they should pin that on Donald Trump, Speaker Mike Johnson, and every single Republican that voted for this bill.
They absolutely should, Roland. The response from the white nationalists will be, they're eating the dogs. In other words, this is not logic. Never underestimate the power of white supremacy. As Joni Ernst, Senator Ernst said, everybody dies. They would rather die than save their own lives if it means that somebody else gets some health care. And so, yes, the Democrats do have a message. And yes, Leader Jeffries spoke for an impassioned almost 9 hours today. Yes, he broke a record. And then they voted the way they were going to vote anyway. I don't give any credit to Fitzpatrick. Thomas Massey, who built his house with his own hands, is always going to do what he's going to do. He ain't scared of them. Fitzpatrick, after voting to advance voting to advance legislation, left the House floor in the middle of the night. Why? He know he's not going to win re-election. He need to roll over these white nationalists like the sea. Morgan, as an economist, I really wonder what your thoughts are at the macroeconomic level about the United States. Thomas Flat Earth Friedman wrote in today's New York Times, as this bill passed, he said, can you hear it? That loud roar coming from the east? It's the sound of 1.4 billion Chinese laughing at us. Because in that bill, they're trying to revert to coal and all that at the same time that the world is moving forward with electric, with solar, with wind. And so what do you think about the jobs of the future, the U.S. economy of the future, as countries all over the world, Brazil and Mexico met this week, the EU trying to work it out with England, are looking for workarounds. Canada talking about it might be an energy superpower in the near future. As the world begins to work around the United States of America, what do you think is on the horizon as Musk's electric vehicles crater in sales? If you go to Dubai, if you go to Malaysia, what's on the streets? BYD, the Chinese car. I mean, what does the future of the American economy and the American worker look like with the passage of this bill?
I can't say that anyone thinks the future is looking strong based on what's coming out of this bill, and there's a lot of uncertainty. I mean, even like I referenced earlier, that we're seeing tech companies announce all these layoffs. A lot of them they're saying are the result of AI, and it's just kind of the natural evolution of how things have to go based on how technology is developing. No, I mean that's been a fundamental problem in our country for a while, at least a few decades, that we're just kind of taking a lot of these companies at their word or letting them set the terms. And so we are in a situation of having kind of like private governments with these very large companies that now have been able to buy off the government, and then it's kind of game over. So that's a dynamic at play. I think also, just this level of like whiplash in policy making. I mean, you can't plan a society for the future if you're disinvesting in education, if you don't have people that are healthy. And so there's really no way to look at what's coming out of this bill and think, oh, great, this is really setting us up very well to be competitive globally. And I agree with you. I mean, I think a lot of other parts of the world are starting to discount how much leadership they'll see out of the United States for the foreseeable future. And, there's still potentially time to change course, but maybe not a lot of time. Because with these types of cuts, with this lack of investment, with this lack of a plan, with this level of corruption, it might not be that easy to flip the switch, even if we do see a change in power in the new administration in a few years, or a change in the dynamics in Congress.
Well, here's a perfect example. I'm sitting here, Politico has this story right here. It says conservatives say Trump won their mega bill votes by promising crackdown on renewable energy credits. Texas Congressman Chip Roy said, quote, "We believe we're going to get 90+% of all future projects terminated." You know, Morgan, to the point that Greg was just stating, is simple. Where in the hell do you think the building is coming from? Where in the hell do you think the new jobs are? That's why the trade union. That's why the electrical workers were opposing this, saying, are you guys stupid? You've got companies that were announcing $400 and $500 million expansion projects. We sit here complaining about the Chinese dominating. America created the solar energy. Solar panels are an American invention, and they're just like, yo, China, y'all going right ahead. I saw a story earlier that said, let me see, I want to double check. I think it was in Norway. New car. I think it said that 97% of all new cars in Norway were electric vehicles. And yeah, right here in Norway, 90% of new cars sold in 2024 were fully electric, with the country aiming for all new cars sold by 2025 to be zero emission. Now, here's what's hilarious, Morgan. These right-wingers go, oh, electric vehicles, man, that's hurting the power grid. What's sucking up the power grid? These AI plants.
The data centers.
Right. So, but the data centers. So for people to sit here and for these Republicans to say, oh, we should stop, forget all these electric vehicle stuff, I'm like, y'all are on crack, and the crack you're on are fossil fuels. The reality, I've got General Motors is delivering on Monday to me an electric vehicle. We have to understand that this is real simple. You have to recognize where the future is. This bill and Republicans, Morgan, they only think and operate in the now. They don't give a damn about the next 10, 20, 30 years. And yeah, we're going to be in for a serious issue if the rest of the world says, okay, America, we know you are the largest economy in the world at $29 trillion. But we don't have to actually do stuff with you. If we partner with one another, we can bypass you. And that's going to be happening a whole lot over the next 3 years.
Yeah, I think a couple of comments. I mean, one, the big tech data center situation, it absolutely impacts electricity. I mean, they're cutting these deals. They're going to raise electricity prices, but trying to spread the cost of that across all of us and individual ratepayers, not just themselves. And that is a huge problem and going to increase costs for people. And also water on the data centers extract a lot of water. And that's another part of the utility story that isn't always talked about, but increased water bills for people, getting shut off, not having access to basic services. Does that sound like a modern country to any of us? I don't think so. And so, again, like beyond the economic perspective, it's just like the real inhumanity of what they're doing is really tough to fully portray just the risks that it's creating for a lot of Americans in the future at all income levels. It's like, even if you feel like you're pretty good now, these are just going to continue to have ripple effects that I think will hit a lot of different economic classes. And yeah, I mean, it's very easy now it'll be an adjustment even for some of these countries to want to coordinate amongst themselves, but the incentive to do so is very easy to calculate. You cannot rely on the United States. I mean, not having people feel comfortable coming here to do research. That's always been one of the top benefits of coming to the U.S., having international people that either come and gain knowledge and have a great impression of the U.S. and go back wherever they're from, or come and love the education they got here and invest in starting businesses and hiring people. We're going to lose that. Investing in research and to create innovation even within the government. A lot of the private sector is just not incentivized to have the resources to do that, front loading of research and development to create the next next great healthcare breakthrough or some kind of new technology. Why do we have the internet now? It's because there was government investment along the way that allowed engineers and scientists to be able to invest in that, learning and understanding that technology. The private sector is never going to do that in the same way. And so, this is potentially setting us back for a long, long time. And it's just a clear corporate giveaway, even things that don't seem like they're big corporate giveaways. Going back to the immigration issue, what is a lot of this funding going to go towards? Detention centers. Who owns detention centers? The same people that are operating prisons. And this is not actually investing in any communities. And it's just a complete giveaway to folks that already have a lot and are only going to get more.
To that particular point, Nola, that people have to recognize, when you start having countries begin to align and work together economically, then that has an impact also military. That then impacts foreign policy. And so people need to understand that they may look at this bill and look at the actions of these Republicans only through the terms of America's interests, but the world is watching what happened today. They'll be watching when this bill is signed tomorrow. They will see how Donald Trump has shown that the Republican Party is utterly feckless. They are unwilling to hold him accountable. They're allowing him to do whatever it is they want to do. So the world is watching and seeing that there literally are no Republican guardrails to stop a madman from doing whatever it is that he wants to do. And they are going to respond. And it's not going to be the way that we think it always has been with our so-called allies.
Absolutely. The world is watching. And in many countries around the world, they have great health care. I've been sick multiple times in different countries and left those hospitals without having to pay a bill as a non-citizen. And here we are stripping very vulnerable people of their health care. And to your point, Roland, I'm glad that you kind of drew the intersection between what happened today with that bill and also with our insecurity. What's very clear to me is that this administration is not interested in being the leader of anything other than in defense, right? And we saw an example of that when they bombed the 3 nuclear facilities in Iran. The next day, Hegseth said, deterrence is back. So that tells me, as a professional, as a security and defense professional, oh, okay, so we're doing away with diplomacy. We said, screw you to our allies and our partners. And we think that having the biggest, baddest military, which we already do, but to have it even bigger and even badder, then that's going to be the answer to everything. That we are going to scare people into some sort of submission versus wanting to do the things to lead in climate, to lead in energy, to lead in human rights. We have completely walked away from all of our values in favor of deterrence. So what that is going to do, that's going to increase an arms race around the world. And there's already evidence of this happening. In space, where I spend most of my day in space security, we are going to see a huge buildup, an arms race in space. And that's also going to happen here on Earth. So all of these things, they snowball, right? So we can't trust the United States. We can't partner with them. They're no longer our allies. Therefore, now we have to think about defense and offense in a way that, insert country hadn't thought about before. Look at what this administration did with Ukraine. They completely sidestepped Congress and refused to send Ukraine the weapons that was already allocated to send to Ukraine. We are beyond the pale here. No one can trust us. Who's going to want to do business with us? And the last thing I will say is the one thing that this administration has done, as it's done many things in its 6 months, it has now positioned China to be the number 1 superpower in the world. Yes, I said
Absolutely.
And I'm going to tell you why.
Absolutely.
Because
that's right.
They understand the gap, the diplomacy gap that we've left.
That's right.
And they are absolutely stepping into that gap. Now, they may have, their own their end goals in mind. Every country does. But Donald Trump has ceded all ground to China. I said what I said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where Roland go?
Well, Eugene, these are, first of all, I'm right here.
I didn't see that.
You done? Eugene, there are far-reaching implications, and I just want people to understand that the economic piece we're talking about goes directly in line with military, with national security, all of those different things. And the world is recognizing, the world sees how shameful and dangerous, how much of a liar this man is. They forced Zelensky to sign a mineral rights deal, and now they're denying them weapons. And the whole point of the deal was to continue to supply weapons. The world will not be trusting the United States. The world will not believe things that we say economically. And folks had better understand and be prepared for that to happen.
And look, Europe's responding, very strongly. They've decided that, hey, instead of relying on the American military-industrial complex to supply us with bombs and planes and ships and everything else, the EU said, look, we're going to build ourselves a bigger army, a better army, and we're also going to produce our own weapons. That's going to have a direct economic impact on American jobs here. One of the things that's often explained nowadays is, a lot of the aid that goes to Ukraine or goes to, any conflict that we decide to support on one side or the other is that, that it's not necessarily money being dropped into those countries. It's, hey, the United States, the Pentagon essentially buying resources from American companies that are then supplying them to these regions in the world, whether it's Ukraine or, conflict in Africa or wherever. That's going to, so when Europe and other affiliate countries are deciding that they're going to produce their own rather than purchase from us, that's going to have a direct effect on American jobs, on American, military producers, folk that make bombs, folk that make bullets, and everything else in between. And it's a direct reflection of Donald Trump being in office. It's a direct reflection of the lack of leadership coming out of the current American presidency. And it's a direct reflection of the rest of the world having to stand up and stand in the gap in real time. I actually thought, when Representative Sparks voted against the rule last night, I actually thought her vote was going to hold because, hey, her sole issue is Ukraine, and they're cutting funding Ukraine, while at the same time, playing games with the weapons after forcing Zelensky to sign the minerals bill. I thought that she was going to hold. I was wrong. I guess at the end of the day, Donald Trump gets what he wants.
Well, Morgan, this thing is real. And again, folks just need to understand what we're going to be facing. And so it's a lot we're going to be unpacking once this bill gets signed. And then we start seeing the absolutely, and I'll say this, and I'm not being hyperbolic, this bill is going to drop an economic nuclear bomb on America, especially rural America, and be prepared for the orange and white tears to be flowing, because they're going to be looking like a bunch of those Latinos who were Latinos for Trump and saying, I didn't think he was talking about me. Morgan Harper, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me, Roland.
Folks, going to a break. We come back. We're going to talk about a case out of North Carolina. Plus, we'll play some of Leader Hakeem Jeffries' speech and break it down. I really believe that speech, that 8-hour and 44-minute and 25-second speech, literally is the blueprint for the Democrats to regain the House next year. I will explain. Folks, support the work that we do. Join the Breeden Funk Fan Club. Your contributions make it possible to do the work that we do and how we travel, the stories that we cover all across the country. If you want to support us via Cash App, please use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. Click the Cash App Pay button to contribute. Check and money order. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Send it to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr, the enigma of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. What really makes him tick, and what forces shaped his view of the world, the country, and Black America? The answer, I'm pretty sure, will shock you.
And he says, people think that I'm anachronistic. I am. I want to go backwards in time in order to move us forward into the future. He's very upfront about this.
We'll talk to Corey Robin, the man who wrote the book that reveals it all. That's next on the Black Table, only on the Black Star Network.
This week on the other side of change.
Mass incarceration, Trump administration is doubling down on criminalization, and how it is profitable.
And there's something really, really perverse about saying that we need to put people in cages in order for other people to have jobs. Like, that is not how our economy should be built.
Only on the other side of change on the Black Star Network.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kim Coles.
Hey, I'm Donnie Simpson.
Yo, it's your man Deion Cole from Blackish, and you watch
Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
All right, folks, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered here on the Black Star Network. You know what? There are so many different cases that we cover on this show that sometimes just leave you perplexed, and you're like, what the hell is going on? Well, this story out of North Carolina is one of those. Attorney Harry Daniels is representing the system in this, and it's sort of strange, if you will, what transpired here. And so let me walk you through this story. Okay, Tamara Parker was wrongfully arrested. Okay. Now, she loses everything being falsely accused of a crime. No criminal record. She spends months trying to clear her name, loses her job, loses her home, after police claim she matched the description of a suspect, and the description was a Black woman. Now, charges have been dropped against her. Her mugshot, though, online, people can pull it up. It's everywhere. And so imagine now you're trying to have to rebuild your life. Tamara and her attorney, Harry Daniels, joins us right now. Glad to have both of you on the show. So what the hell? First of all, what did they accuse you of doing? And what was the description? And was that person actually ever apprehended? And they in any way resemble you?
I have no idea. So what they said happened was someone took someone's credit card information, bought 2 Apple iPhones, and sent them to an advanced auto parts store. I had no idea, what was going on. I don't think that they ever got a suspect. I'm not too sure, but not to my knowledge. I think I.
So how do they get around to you? What happened?
So I went into the store, the Advanced Auto Parts store. I went in on May the 16th of last year. I was looking for a part. I actually had the part in my hand and they didn't have it. I got assistance from the store associate. And then a little over a week later, the police came to my house and had a search warrant to search my home. I had no idea why they were, there, but that was the only time I ever went into that store.
So the first time you ever go to this auto parts store, you looking for a part, then all of a sudden, a week later, they're showing up at your house. And when they show up at your house, what do they say?
I let them in because there was something that happened at my daughter's school earlier that week. So I just thought a teacher was arrested. So I started thinking about that. I thought they were coming in my house to tell me something happened to my child. So I let them inside to see what they had to say. And the guy just started yelling, I just want to know if this is a one-time thing or if you're a part of a ring. And I had no idea what he was talking about. So then he just kind of started going off. So then he told me what happened. Well, he said first, did you go into an advanced auto parts store? And I said, yes, I went there last Thursday to look for a part, and I had the part with me. So that's what he told me. That's when he told me what I was accused of. And at first I thought it was a joke because who would do something like that? That was the craziest thing I've ever heard of. So then I opened up my wallet. I'm like, hey, you can look and see. I don't have anyone's information. I own my home. I have a good credit score, equity stuff in my home. I have reason to do something like this. This is the most ridiculous thing. But yeah, he was very aggressive.
That is so Harry, what's crazy to me is if you're the store, you have surveillance video. If she didn't, the video should show if a card was taken, used, or whatever the heck. What the hell is this?
Thanks, Roland, for having us on. Roland, first of all, we do a lot of cases usually dealing with serious injury, death related to law enforcement. But this was a case that we could not pass up based on the extraordinary and disbelief of what happened to this Tamara. No surveillance cameras, no outside cameras or surveillance cameras in the store at Advanced Auto Part in Dallas, North Carolina. She simply went into the store May 16th to pick up a part for her husband. She went to Advanced Auto Parts the next door. They didn't have the part either. What transpired was that, like she said, somebody sent these phones to the store, and subsequently, one of the sales associates at the store said that the person had came back in the store after police went to the store to pick up the phones. They came back into the store, and they took a picture of the person's license plate. Well, that day was May 20th. On May 20th, Tamara was nowhere around the store. In fact, she was at her kids' pre-K graduation, her other kids' graduation, elementary school graduation, out with family, nowhere near the store. And law enforcement knew it because when they took the phones, and she freely gave the passcode to the phones once they had the search warrant, and they did forensics on the phones, Roland. And in the forensics, they found that she was not at the store on the date that sales associate alleged that she was there. They knew that she did not commit this crime, but nevertheless, they pursued it. They got a warrant for her arrest. She was arrested. She lost everything. Her job, great job, her good reputation, mugshot. Her home is now foreclosure for sale. She's several months behind, and she's currently under the care of a doctor. This is, and she's unemployable at the time because she was an insurance agent, and nobody wants to hire anybody who's been accused of stealing identity fraud or identity theft, especially when you have public trust and you deal with a public identity on a day in, day out basis. But this is one of those cases that law enforcement, overzealous law enforcement, a clerk that we're going to get to the bottom of what happened here because she clearly gave false information to the police that Miss Parker was in the store. She was not. We're going to find out where that come from. And not just that, law enforcement completely ignoring innocence, exculpatory evidence, and pushing forth an agenda that left this family upside down, literally, with finances and in a place that anybody could have been in, especially the Parker's family, where she was a law-abiding citizen, hardworking, taxpayer, no criminal record, making money, own her own home, equity, savings, accounts, good credit, and all of a sudden, all of that was taken from her as a blink of an eye. So we got a lot of work to do. We're going to pursue this case, and we're going to make sure we get some justice for Ms. Parker.
Tamara, how long did you spend in jail?
It was only a few hours. On paper, it said 15 minutes. When I went in, of course, I was talking hey, you guys have the wrong person. And they were just well, this detective, he doesn't make mistakes. He's the best. And he wouldn't be doing this unless he has solid evidence. And I'm like, he doesn't. So when they took me in, I just kept saying, you guys have the wrong person. But they did the intake. I went and talked to the magistrate, and the magistrate said I can leave, gave me the paperwork, said he'd unsecured bond. He even made a joke Ms. Parker, do you have a ticket or any speeding tickets? And I'm when I was 19 or 20. And so he basically told me I was leaving. I didn't leave. They put me in a holding cell after the magistrate secure my bond and told me I could leave.
Yeah, Roland, just to add this is, and the evidence and what I just told you and the facts of this case, it's not speculative. This is what is in the discovery, the criminal discovery. I'm not making it up. This is what the DA had, and once the DA reviewed this discovery, and a lot of times the DA don't review discoveries until they get an indicted case, he immediately dismissed this case with insufficient evidence. Dismissed it. We have the dismissal. We have the evidence to show, and we look forward to pursuing this case. And this just goes to show that even when you're doing right, when you're doing good, you're doing everything good, you're not breaking the law, you're being a law-abiding citizen, and sometimes just being black in America is the only crime you committed. And this woman and her family has did nothing wrong, and they are in a position where they need help, obviously, and we're here to help them and get some redress for them.
All right, then. Well, surely we hope you are able to do that because, again, this is the last thing a lot of people would ever want to have to deal with. Thanks a lot.
Take care, Roland.
Thank you.
Folks, we come back. We'll show you some of the speech, the record-setting speech of House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries that took place this morning, wee hours of the morning, leading into almost midday. We'll show you that, but also unpack how I truly believe that he laid out the blueprint for Democrats taking back the House in 2026. We will show you that and explain next, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr, the enigma of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. What really makes him tick, and what forces shaped his view of the world, the country, and Black America? The answer, I'm pretty sure, will shock you.
And he says, people think that I'm anachronistic. I am. I want to go backwards in time in order to move us forward into the future. He's very upfront about this.
We'll talk to Corey Robin, the man who wrote the book that reveals it all. That's next on the Black Table, only on the Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, less than 5% of the top executive positions in corporate America are held by women of color. We know it's not because of talent. A recent study says that it's microaggressions, unconscious bias, and limited opportunities being offered to women of color. On our next show, we're going to get incredible advice from Francine Parham, who's recently written a book sharing exactly what you need to do to make it up into the management ranks and get the earnings that you deserve.
I made a point to sit down and I made a point to talk to people. And I made a point to be very purposeful and thought-provoking when I spoke to them.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Marissa Mitchell, a news anchor at Fox 5 DC.
Hey, what's up? It's Tammy Roman, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Folks, before we play some of the speech Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries, this is the GoFundMe page for Tamara Parker if you are interested in donating. She's trying to put her life back together. And so this is it right here. So far, less than $1,400 has been raised. And so, again, you see it right here. And so go to GoFundMe, type in her name or type in wrongfully accused, trying to rebuild my life. And there you go. All right, folks. A record-setting speech from Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries speaking against Donald Trump's so-called big, beautiful bill, which is really a big, ugly, dangerous bill. Jeffries broke the record set in 2021 by then Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, which was 8 hours and 32 minutes. He spoke today for 8 hours, 44 minutes, and 25 seconds. Here is some of what he had to say.
But the aspirational part of the Declaration of Independence, of course, that is often famously quoted. But then if you read other parts of the Declaration of Independence, extraordinarily written document, it reads like an indictment. against the extremism of the king. It reads like an indictment against the kings. I think of King George. It reads like an indictment against King George's flood the zone strategy. It reads like an indictment against King George's shock and awe strategy. It reads like an indictment against what I think may have been called Project 1775, which is what brought us to Project 1776. And you look at this indictment, and one of the things it alludes to, it talks about, is the notion of the king's effort to stop the assimilation of people from other parts of the world into the United States of America. So we understand that from the very beginning of this great country, there was a recognition, of course, of the importance of immigration to the success and vitality of the United States of America. And let me be clear, Mr. Speaker, so there's no misrepresentation. As House Democrats, we understand the importance, the urgency of securing the border. We believe that our immigration system is broken and that it should be fixed in a comprehensive and bipartisan way. So many leaders in that effort, so many big ideas were willing to partner in a bipartisan way. Pramila Jayapal, Linda Sanchez, Adriano Espaillat, Tom Suozzi, so many others. Veronica Escobar, we want to partner to fix our broken immigration system in a bipartisan and comprehensive way, secure our border. But we're also going to make sure we stand up for our nation's heritage, a nation of immigrants, which continues to this very day. It's an important part of American exceptionalism, and as far as I can tell, in my reading of the original document, the writings of the founders of this great country, the framers of the Constitution, they recognized it from the very beginning. They weren't perfect. We didn't have a perfect start. But of course, as the preamble to the United States Constitution set forth, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union. Mr. Speaker, we've been set on this magical course, our march toward a more perfect union. And the immigration journey has always been an important part of the American journey. That's why it's heartbreaking to see some of the things that are happening in the country right now. The targeting in such an extraordinary way of law-abiding immigrant families, including American citizens. How can this be in the United States of America? Some people who might suggest that we should stay away from these stories. No, I'm going to lean into this part of the American journey because we support our heritage as a nation of immigrants. And we're going to stand up for dreamers, stand up for farm workers, stand up for law-abiding immigrant families all across this country. U.S. citizen children have been deported, Mr. Speaker. Is this who we've become in the United States of America? How can this be? This is extraordinary. 2-year-old American named Manu Borges Santos was born in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, in September of 2022. In February, she was taken into custody in Florida alongside her mother and father, both of whom were undocumented. And as a result of this situation, we're fed up with Project 1775. And so they implemented Project 1776. So I know that there are people concerned with what's happening in America, but understand what our journey teaches us is that after Project 2025 comes Project 2026. And you will have an opportunity to end this national nightmare as part of Project 2026. I love the framers. They gave us a blueprint for what should give us hope in this moment.
That's right.
I think that I want to close by referencing
Take your sweet time.
someone who we all serve with. I want to stand on the shoulders, if it's okay, on some of our civil rights heroes and foot soldiers.
Yes, yes.
Those whose character, whose conviction, whose courage should give the American people hope at a moment of great despair. Many of us had the great honor of serving with Congressman John Lewis. The great honor, Mr. Speaker, to serve with Congressman John Lewis.
That's right.
And I came across something that John Lewis said in June of 2028, that hopefully, no matter what the outcome of this vote, will give people some hope. Great John Lewis said, "Do not get lost in a sea of despair.
Come on.
Be hopeful.
Say his word.
Be optimistic.
Yeah.
Our struggle is not the struggle of a day,
Not one day.
a week, a month, or a year.
That's right.
It is the struggle of a lifetime. That's our struggle. No matter what, Mr. Speaker, you decide to do today, that's our struggle. Standing on the shoulders of John Lewis, that's our struggle. Never ever be afraid to make some noise and get into good trouble. Good trouble. Good trouble. Necessary trouble. Standing on the shoulders of giants. John Lewis would often talk to us about his admiration for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King, who would refer to John Lewis as the boy from Troy.
The boy from Troy.
Now, what's interesting to me, that civil rights movement, we can learn a lot from it. Started December of 1955. And Rosa Parks sat down on that bus so that all of us could have the courage to stand up.
That's right.
Wasn't an easy struggle. All the odds were stacked against these civil rights heroes and foot soldiers. And during the early days of the movement, a difficult part of the movement, Dr. King, after they've been targeted, arrested, beaten, harassed by the authorities, he traveled to Brooklyn, New York.
Yes. Brooklyn.
And spoke at the Concord Baptist Church. I think it was in March of 1956. And he said to a group of people of every race, every religion, every life experience, the Concord Baptist Church in Bedford-Stuyvesant, said to them, no matter what the odds, we've got to press on.
Press on. Press on. Press on.
Dr. King said that if you can't fly, run.
That's right.
If you can't run, walk.
That's right.
If you can't walk, crawl. But at all times, press on.
Press on. Press on.
And keep pressing.
Press on.
And so as I take my seat, I just want to say to the American people that no matter what the outcome is on this singular day,
What the hell? Fight forward.
we're going to press on. We're going to press on. We're going to press on. We're going to press on for our children, press on for our seniors, press on for our veterans, press on for our unions, press on for our farmers, press on for our dreamers, press on for working class Americans, press on for the middle class, press on for all who aspire to be part of the middle class, press on for the poor, press on for the sick, press on for the afflicted, press on for the least, press on for the lost, press on for the left behind, press on for the rule of law, press on for the American way of life, press on for democracy. We're going to press on until victory is won. I yield back.
From Massachusetts.
So let me unpack what happened. Jeffries did not tell his Democratic caucus that this is what he was going to do. And that was a very smart thing. You had some Democrats who were bitching and moaning, saying, well, he could have given us a heads up and where we would have booked multiple flights and, you know, that would have been nice. Well, no, because those idiots would have leaked it. Okay? So let me explain to you why this speech was so important. And I see all these people. I see all these old, really smart people. Folks all on social media, that was a waste of time. He was just up there. I mean, oh, my God, he's horrible. He's not shown any leadership. All that. All of that talking, all of that whining, all of that, all that. The reason they're wrong is that if you listen to this speech, and I listened to most of it, what he did was he literally laid out the Democrats' agenda to retake the House. You heard him say you had Project 2025, well, next year there will be Project 2026. Y'all, that literally is the name, or what that's the name that Democrats should adopt as their battle plan for next year. So first of all, you call it Project 2026 because the project is to retake the House in 2026. If you listen to the speech, he spent lots of time talking about health care, talking about food, talking about housing. Hello, that's the agenda. In fact, I saw a tweet, and there was a Republican who somebody posted that this bill does this for food, does this for education, and does something else. And this Republican goes, yes, exclamation point. So that Republican is cheering all of those things that this bill has done. You take David Valadao of California, Republican. 64% of his district relies on Medicaid. Whoever is running against him, that's all you run on. And you go after that 64%. See, I don't know what people want. I saw one woman, she sat here and she was talking about, oh my God, this has been awful. It's this, it's that. They have a trifecta, y'all. Republicans did not need any Democrat votes in the House to pass the bill. They didn't get any. They used the reconciliation process in the Senate, which only required a simple majority and not 60 votes. Didn't need Dems. And obviously, Trump sitting in the White House. So for all these people who kept going, Democrats should have fought harder. Can you please tell me what in the hell? And I love when all these people say this. I would really love to tell me what meme, what graphic, what statement Jeffries or any of them could have posted or stated that was going to stop this bill from happening. See, a lot of the people who are complaining, a lot of the people who are so upset, a lot of those folk were the ones who were bitching last year and who were not focused on turning people out. One of the reasons that Vice President Kamala Harris lost is because Democrats didn't turn out. You had all these disaffected Democrats over the issue of Gaza. You had young folks who were upset by that. You had folks who said that Biden was too old. You had folks who said, oh, we shouldn't have had Harris. Oh, we should be focusing on transgender. We should be focusing on GEI. And you had Democrats who were just, oh, my God, it's awful. Things are bad. Where's this? Where's that? Where's this? Yet Republicans got in line. How did Republicans pass this bill? How did they go from losing 217 to 207, holding the vote open, and then converting the holdouts? It's because they fell in line. Because they said, you can't get everything that you want, but we're going to get this bill right now. See, I keep saying Democrats have a history of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. So right now, again, if you listen to what Jeffries said, House Democrats should be absolutely focused and fixated Project 2026. Pull up the graphic. The DCCC, I showed this the other day on the show, they sat here and they showed the 35 districts in play. That means right now, what Democrats should be doing, they should have the data, and they also do, they should have the data of every single one of those districts and how many people in those districts depend on Medicaid. What they should be having is how many people in those districts depend on SNAP benefits. What they should be doing is breaking down how every single time a hospital in one of those districts closes down, the Democrats should be holding a news conference in front of that hospital. Every time a nursing home in those districts shuts down, they should be holding news conference in front. Person says in the chat, I disagree, you don't adopt your opponent's slogan. You're not adopting this slogan. What you're doing is you're offering a counter to your opponents. Y'all pull the graphic up. We have a shirt that says, y'all see my shirt. No, not that graphic. My shirt says, don't blame me if it was a black woman. We have a shirt that we're selling, and it says, FAFO 2025 project crossed out. Because that's exactly what is about to happen. What is about to happen right now is that rural America is about to be decimated. You know who that is? White people. Conservative white people. Decimated. It's about to happen. See, people, y'all, this is very simple. All the Democrats have to do is win 5 seats. 5. Pull that list up again. One of those folks on that graphic is Don Bacon. Don Bacon announced he's retiring. Don Bacon represents Omaha, Nebraska. He represents the district where that hospital announced today they were shutting its doors because of what happened today with Medicaid. See, I think the problem with some really smart Democrats is that sometimes they too damn smart. Sometimes they trying to make this thing so, oh my God, and oh my God, I hate, oh this, and we ain't doing this, and when we ain't doing that, and we should be doing this, and oh no, he's this, and Jeffries, no, he should be doing this here. Then you ask him, well, what specifically? Well, I don't really know. I can't really tell you that because that's really not my job. What the hell are you talking about then? Folks, I'm telling you, national Democrats, and I'm saying this for a reason, this is where national Democrats should be. Everything is 2026. Everything is 2026. Yes, you're going to defend your districts, but there are 35 vulnerable Democrats. All you need are 5. You win 5 out of the 35, you control the House. Republicans know it. Donald Trump is going to try to get everything he could get passed between now and November 2026 because he knows what's coming. And I'm telling you, folk need to stop sitting here and complaining. Oh my God, I'm going to tell y'all something right now. You can bring back from the dead Sam Rayburn. You can bring back Tom Foley. You can bring back Skip O'Neill. You can bring Nancy Pelosi back. There's nothing that Nancy Pelosi could have done to stop this bill because they don't have the power. The only way you stop Trump and MAGA Republicans is if you seize power. And National Democrats had better be locked and loaded on 2026. Virginia Democrats had better be locked and loaded on maintaining the House in November, maintaining the Senate in November, and taking the governor's mansion, and taking out that black MAGA Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears. That means Spanberger had better stop running this middle-of-the-road milquetoast campaign, and she better be talking and speaking to and energizing black voters who make up 20% of the state. You cannot stop someone from doing something, and you cannot advance your agenda if you do not have the power. Go to my panel. I want to go to you first, Greg. If people actually stop getting so caught up in theatrics and, oh, the person didn't move me, I wasn't excited. He really laid out what Democrats stand for and how to counter Republicans. Your thoughts?
Well, brother, with all due respect to Leader Jeffries, in the words of Malcolm X, you're speaking a language they don't understand. I thought that it was as strong a speech as I've heard Hakeem Jeffries give. I think that if we lived in a nation, it would be the opening salvo of a project that could possibly work. But we don't live in a nation. We live in a country with a lot of different nations in it. You've got a president of the United States who is mentally ill, who is a racist, who called the winner of the New York Democratic primary in New York for mayor a communist, radical, threatening to deport him. And Leader Jeffries, understanding that his position is to keep the Democratic Party together, defended Mamdani, but stopped short of endorsing him. I wasn't moved by the speech. And it's not necessary for me to be moved by the speech because I know that in order to advance, we don't have to be moved by rhetoric. I'm going to support whatever and whoever is going to advance the interests of our common humanity. But I can't help in this moment but think about Dr. King, not in the immediate wake of the Montgomery bus boycott where Leader Jeffries spoke to in 1956, but in 1968. Dr. King understood very well where we live and what we had to do. And what we have done in this country in terms of electoral politics, what we have done is tack toward that middle you're talking about, Roland. And the results have been a diminishing return in terms of black political power since its peak in the 1970s. I think there are probably more than a handful of people listening today and who are watching today, and I know you remember the battle between Julian Bond and John Lewis for that congressional seat coming out of Georgia. See, white nationalists are terrified. brutal, and they were terrified of Julian Bond. John Lewis, not so much. See, the idea that you can appeal to the humanity of a white supremacist, I understand you got to refer to the founding fathers and you got to refer to those criminals, those fleeing felons that had your ancestors captive. I understand. You got to say what you got to say. But I'll end with this. I hope what you said is in fact what the Democratic leadership will do. I hope that they will overwhelm these white supremacists. I hope they will not leave the Congressional Progressive Caucus out on a limb. I hope that they will show the same energy they used to every time somebody showed up that wanted to fight with both fists, whether it be Cori Bush and now Wesley Bell is in the damn legislature, whether it be Nina Turner and now Chantel Brown is in. I hope they show that same energy when it's time to fight these white supremacists and punch them in the face. Social media, I saw one of these young people called Leader Jeffries APAC Shakur. Listen, let's be crystal clear now. You got to fight these people. So that same energy that was in that speech, we need to now see it in dollars. We need to see it in organization. And you need to see that in solidarity with people who you might not agree with on everything, but you cannot now turn around and try to walk that middle of the road, because if they take the House and take it by 1 vote or 2 votes, those quote-unquote conservative Democrats or soft white nationalists who will then caucus with the Republicans or at least cast their vote with the Republicans, that's when you know that the middle, as Dr. King said, that lukewarm thing, the worst enemy we got, the white liberal, when we read Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community, comes out to play. This can be a turning point. Let me just stop, because I'm not going to say whether I trust it or not, because we got to do the right thing either way, but shouting good trouble and, nah, man, you speaking a language they don't understand, brother.
The thing here, Eugene, when I talk about in terms of how do you move forward, the thing here which is critical is that for all of these Democrats who are mealy-mouthed, whining, complaining about Mamdani, they're idiots. Because what they're not doing is they're not asking the right question. And the right question to ask is, how did he win? How
teach.
did he
Come on now.
speak? They're not asking, how did he run a smart, sophisticated, targeted campaign that spoke to the present day needs of the voters, that studied those who sat out previous elections, that activated them, that piqued their interest, and that turned out. That's why all the Bill Ackmans of the world, they can all be praising Eric Adams and all sorts of stuff like that. I'm telling you right now, there's no doubt. I think he wins the general election. Because what the people, what progressives, what Democrats, what people who lean Democrat, what people want is they want to see somebody who is speaking into them in a way that is addressing their real life issues, who is not talking to them from 30,000 feet, but who is doing what Joe Madison said, you got to put it where the ghost can get it.
And look, I hope Democrats finally do learn a lesson, right? Because they had opportunity when AOC beat Carly and she got elected, right? And this New York election is a much broader demo, much broader landmass. But it's one more time another catalyst. Last week we had a discussion, after your interview with Jasmine Crockett, about how, them leadership should be using their assets like a Jasmine Crockett or Maxwell Frost, right? But most importantly, going back to eventual Speaker Jeffries' speech earlier today, what he was meticulous to do is he called out every single targeted swing seat that could be easily won by and shifted by a couple points. When he told me, he called out Mulatto, when he called out Lawler. I mean, some folk even, there's typically an unspoken rule within a delegation that you don't attack within your own delegation. But he understands that, hey, 3 of those 5 swing seats come straight out of New York, right? And so he called out his own delegation members, put the targets on their backs. He laid out an agenda. I do think that part of what needs to happen, especially with the outside groups, is that the conversation that has to take place is, hey, look, people sat out this last election, and when people were saying, hey, give me power so that I can help you, you didn't, and now you're looking at these people to help you. You can't make that same mistake in 2026. You can't look at Hakeem Jeffries or Dem leadership in the House or the Senate and say, oh, do X, Y, Z to stop this. Well, the math is really simple in both of these chambers, and the rules are even simpler. It's majority rule. Majority rule, minority rights, right? So it's political science 101, every single class. Comparative politics, political science, poli-sci. Any 101 class, the first thing you learn about American government is that it's majority rule and majority rule, minority rights. But it's still majority rule. And what people have to understand is that you have to give the people that are looking out for your interests power to look out for your interests. You can't come to them 6 months, 8 months, a year later and say, what are you doing? You're doing nothing. Well, hey, because of the way the system's structured, I don't have power to do anything. So, today, Leader Jeffries, laid out on the House floor a House Dem agenda. He called out, members of that represented, constituencies, which effectively is, hey, the Dem leader reached out his hand to these constituencies, saying, listen, if the people that you voted for, if you elected, are going to give away everything and not protect you, then give us the opportunity to actually work with you. And look, I think you're going to see a wave. You're going to see a 2010, 2018 wave election in 2026.
Nola, one of the things that Bishop William Barber does that I think is brilliant is that when they have their rallies, they do not allow politicians to speak. They let impacted people speak. You heard Jeffries read letters from individuals in those Republican districts talk about Medicaid, education, people with disabilities. What I'm speaking to right now, Nola, are those white Democratic strategists who keep running bullshit campaigns that don't resonate. What you do right now, you are collecting and you are amplifying impacted people in every single one of those 35 districts, and you use them like a battering ram against the Republicans to take them out in 2026. Your comments?
What I heard in that speech is 3 words keep resonating with me. We the people, we the people, we the people. That's what leapt out to me. I thought that this rhetorical device was used strategically as part of the Congressional Senate and Hill Content Creators Program. I have access to congressional members, so I've been a part of this fight pretty much since the beginning. I've been on the Hill at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, talking to people who are outside on the steps in the rain, and then also go inside and talk to members. And one of the things that everyone was saying, but had a hard time trying to figure out how to say it, was, we are here for the people. And that is what I heard in Jeffries, Leader Jeffries. People keep manifesting that. That's what I heard in his 9 hours. For me, it wasn't necessarily about, him being this generation's orator. I saw it as strategic. And one of the ways in which I saw it as strategic was he brought this bill into the daylight. And this is where I think the Dems were very successful. People are talking about this bill in a way that they would not have been talking about it if the pressure was not on, if multiple knees were not on multiple necks. And to your point, Roland, just last night, I was in historic Black Chat's liquor store last night. They had a whiskey tasting, and it was a smattering of Americans. And there was this young white male who was a Democrat from Alabama. He said, I am uneducated and I have been a blue collar worker my entire life. And he said, I get really annoyed because the Democratic Party feels so elite that I am not a part of the party, but I've always been a Democrat. My wife's a Democrat. We moved to DC so she could work here, and I picked up my life to support her dream because that's how much I believe in this. So we, the people, needs to mean exactly that. You have to keep reminding people. You have to also bring Southerners into this conversation, and not just 5 minutes before a national election. They need to be part of this conversation. They need to be engaged in a way that has not happened in a very long time. People need to understand what's at stake in this bill. And let me tell you something about Southerners. One thing they understand is their health. One thing they understand are their doctor's appointments. Like, most of their days are actually spent around their doctor's appointments. So this is an issue that resonates with people. This is why people are talking about this bill. So while the Republicans won this for Donald Trump, they did not win for the people. And to your point, Roland, that's what Democrats have to keep reminding people of. They won this for Trump, not for them. We the people, we the people, we the people.
Here's a perfect example of what I just think is dumb. Progressive Emma, where is it? It was just dumb. And this is what just drives me crazy. Hold up, let me find it right here, because I can't believe she posted this. Emma Vigeland, she goes, you know, it would have been great. She goes, maybe if Democrats spent weeks leading a mobilization effort against the bill, a national strategy with rallies in key districts, instead of having meltdowns about Zoran, I'd be a bit more enthusiastic about Jeffries' grand plan to delay the vote until the afternoon. What was stupid is they did that. One of the reasons this bill was so unpopular in the polls is because Democrats literally were holding town halls in Republican districts. See, this is the stupid stuff that drives me crazy with progressives who act like stuff isn't happening, okay, who go, oh, okay, they gave a long speech this afternoon.
The thing is this, right? I'll jump in here as
what pisses... Eugene, go ahead.
Oh, no. The thing is this. What progressives have to understand is what conservatives also had to learn, right? And then actually finally switched up their playbook for the Obamacare saga. Everything, you're not going to stop the bill, right? But what you do is you use the moment to build for the party and the power that you want come next cycle. In 2010, Republicans were in a much worse position than Democrats are right now. And they rallied and lined people up and had people, flood Congress during the passage of Obamacare. The bill was going to get passed, but you used the moment to build to what you want. Speaker Jeffries actually used a tool, right? And it's actually unique, literally to just the leader of the party. Only the leader gets unlimited talking and speaking time. So essentially used the only version of a House filibuster to maximize the moment. And these progressives who probably have never given to a candidate, who probably never knocked on a door, who's probably never run for office themselves, probably isn't involved in their local Democrat apparatus in one way, shape, or form, but can get on Twitter or Facebook.
No,
don't do that.
I'm sorry.
Don't do that.
Greg, go ahead.
Okay? Don't do that. Don't do that. Let's be very clear. This is not... We need to stop acting as if we are in a high school civics classroom. These are white supremacists. When you see Mike Johnson, when you see Steve Scalise, and they behind the desk doing a little dance a couple of hours ago. Steve Scalise was protected by a black woman and black law enforcement when somebody tried to take his life, and that punk-ass racist continues to be a white supremacist. This isn't a two sides thing. Yeah, I agree with you. I got a lot of friends who are ultra-radical. They're like, listen, are they both parties the same duopoly? I'm constantly enrolling those. You've been beating that back as well. But this is something else. Yes, Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders have been out there, and then, you've got Eric Swalwell go out, and now they're starting to do that. But the Democrats are timid. Let me be very clear about this. This isn't Democrats versus Republicans. This is white supremacists and billionaires versus everybody. If you're not going to do that, what you said before, and Roland said as well, is very important. How did Mamdani organize? He spoke to issues. He was sharp. He was fast. He knows what he's doing. He's 33 years old. He's making these great videos. He's going to get an egg and cheese in the bodega, and he's tying it to taxes and billionaires getting breaks. And he's saying, you know, we got to free these buses. We're going to have some community, some city-owned grocery stores. And guess what? He wins after all those people, including all those Negro politicians in New York City, elected officials that lined up behind a man who should never have office again, Andrew Cuomo, like they were saluting the flag. I'm looking at Greg Meeks over the shoulder of Hakeem Jeffries sitting there. And when Cuomo lost, Bill Ackman and all them racists went and pulled Eric Adams out the grave and said, stand up and salute. And you know what the Democrats have done? Not a damn thing. So here's the thing. You're not going to compromise with a white supremacist. And beating up the progressives is a recipe for a loss for the Democratic Party in 2026. Put that in the book, brother.
All I'm saying is very simple. And that is the reason Jeffrey's speech today was important is because you got to have something that you begin to galvanize people around. You couldn't just say, oh, well, like I'm telling you, I'm just sick of these progressives who think that, oh, they could have somehow stopped this. The question now is, if you despise this bill, what are you going to do now? I am quite sure that there were numerous times Dr. King and Ralph Abernathy and Septima Clark and Fannie Lou Hamer. I'm quite sure there were numerous times. James Foreman, James Farmer. I'm quite sure there were numerous times. A. Philip Randolph, where they were just frustrated, and they was like, I feel like I'm speaking into the wind. But the reason they kept speaking, the reason they kept protesting, is because they understood it's the constant churn, and it's the awakening of people. And what's going to happen when this bill gets signed? The cuts begin to happen, and people begin to cry. They begin to cry first, then they begin to cry out, and then when they cry out, they then are looking for some place to go. They're looking for some place to join. They're looking for some place to tap into, and so the responsibility of Democrats, of progressives, of civil rights groups, and nonpartisan groups is to be able to say, we have created the place for you to come. We have a place for you to join. We have a place for you to sign up. We want you to engage in this. That is the point of it. But it is ludicrous to sit here and go, oh my God, he just spoke so long. It was a long speech. It did nothing. Everybody knew his speech was not going to somehow cause Republicans to go, oh my God, a lightning bolt has hit me. The Lord is speaking to my spirit, and therefore I'm going to change my vote. No, they knew the Lord that they serve, the little g God they serve, is Donald Trump. But the whole point there is, if I could give somebody a sliver of hope, give somebody a sense that we hear you and we understand you, then we can go from there. But see, here's the challenge now. The challenge now for Leader Jeffries, the challenge now for DNC Chair Ken Martin, the chair now for Chuck Schumer, the chair now for the PACs and consultants and the candidates and the activists. The challenge for them now is, what are you going to do after July 3rd? What are you going to do after the bill is signed July 4th? What are you going to do on July 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th and 9th and 10th and 11th and 12th and 13th and 14th and on and on and on? That's really what the challenge is. And so when you have people who are in a position, who are ready to take action, that now means that if you're Jeffries, you're going out and you're recruiting candidates in every single race. That means that you're sitting here crafting a message. That means that you are stopping and bitching and moaning about Mamdani and studying his campaign and studying his commercials and studying his strategy and looking at how they did it. Because what you're going to have to do in that district where they have 64% on Medicaid, you're going to have to go get those folks because they don't vote. You're going to have to not go out and try to convince some Republicans to vote for you. I'm sick and tired of hearing Democrats say, we're going to have to, yes, and Yank Huger and others, we have to listen to them. No, we don't. We don't have to listen to them. We don't have to talk to them. What you have to do is activate the 90 million folk who don't vote. You have got to be able to reach them in a certain way, and that, folks, is how you win. And I guarantee you, y'all can write it down right now at 7:11 p.m. Eastern on July 3rd, 2025, that if Democrats have the courage to sit amongst the people and not talk to the people, not preach to the people, but listen to the people and engage the people and then activate the people, then you are going to see a blue wave sweep across this country come November 2026. And then they'll be able to say it all began with an 8-hour and 44-minute and 25-second speech on July 3rd that exposed this nasty, ugly, dangerous bill for the whole nation to see and did not allow it to be passed in the middle of the night. But the question is, for folk watching, for folk who are tweeting, for the folk who are posting, for the folk who are complaining, the question you now have to answer, I go back to that movie, The Untouchables, when they're in the balcony, church balcony, and you got Kevin Costner.
That's right.
He's sitting here across from Sean Connery. And Connery said, what are you prepared to do, Elliot Ness? Well, I'm prepared to do whatever I need to do under the law. He said, then what are you prepared to do?
Then.
He said, when they come at you with a knife, you come at them with a gun. One of them put your people in the hospital, you put one of them in the morgue. He said, that is the Chicago way. And that is how you do it. But he said, but the question is, Mr. Ness, what are you prepared to do? And that is the question that I have for the more than 5,000 of y'all watching right now, for the folks who are listening. If you want to see something change, I don't need you. You can't vote today. What you can do right now is go out and inform and educate and enlighten. Tell folk to watch this show. Tell people what needs to happen. And we need to be sitting here letting them know what's going on and what happens and what closes and what gets shut down and who gets affected. And we got to be telling these stories. And then when the time comes to pull that trigger at the ballot box, we rain holy hell on these evil, despicable people, vote them out of office, and then we say after 2026, J.D. Vance and everyone else, we coming after you in 2028, and you sit here and run over them like a locomotive train. But that cannot happen if folk sit on the sidelines and whine and complain. That's right. Nola had to go. Let me thank Greg. Let me thank Eugene for joining us on today's show. Tomorrow, we will be playing the rendering, and Greg was one of the folks who participated, What to the Slaves the 4th of July. That speech that Frederick Douglass gave. That speech that still resonates today. We'll be playing that tomorrow. While Republicans are happy and they are celebrating with Trump signing the bill and firing fireworks, we are going to be getting busy and working. Folks, y'all enjoy the 4th. I'll be back live Monday for the nation's capital. I'm here in New Orleans for Essence Fest. If I see you here, let's take a photo. If I see y'all wearing Rolling Unfiltered gear, we will take a photo and I'll post it on the show. Folks, again, thank you so very much. Folks, do me a favor, and that is support the work that we do. We need 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each a year. That's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. We need that to happen. And so please, if you want to contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. Point your phone to it. That's the QR code. Click the Cash App Pay button to contribute, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com for the link. Send a check or money order, P.O. Box 5719. First of all, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Send it to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo RM Unfiltered. Zelle Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Be sure to get my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available at bookstores nationwide. Download the version that I read on Audible. You also can support us by be sure to get our gear, get our Roland Martin Unfiltered gear. Listen, if you have ordered our gear and you have not gotten your order, send us an email. Go to RolandSMartin.com. Click contact, send us an email. We can help make that happen. We are talking to another company to do our products because we've had too many problems with Custom Spring. But the products are at RolandMartin.creator-spring.com. Don't forget, support Fanbase. Download the app. If you want to invest, get more information, startengine.com/Fanbase. Folks, that is it. I appreciate y'all watching on the show. Y'all know we do what we do. And again, we really need your support for the work that we do because we are doing our best to speak to the issues that matter to our people. And so I see y'all around New Orleans. It'd be great to see y'all, folks. That's it. I got to go. Enjoy July 4th. Get some rest. Enjoy yourself. But we going back to work on Monday. Take care. Holla!